Hey everybody, it's Chuck Esposito here with Jason McCormick at Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook. And as you notice, we've got either our hockey beards going or no shave November, or till the Bears can win back-to-back games, we're not going to shave. So my guess is we're going to have these through the end of the year. But anyway, it's missed you guys last week. We're going to dive into some college football where there's some big games this week, right, Jay?
Yeah, as the rankings come out, obviously we've got Ohio State, a huge favorite this week over Maryland, 44 points. Clemson, a 33-point favorite over NC State. But really, I think there's three matchups really look to watch. Penn State, Minnesota, two 8-0 teams take it head-to-head. That's basically an elimination game in the Big Ten. You've got 8-0 Baylor playing at TCU. If they can continue to run the table, they've got a big matchup with Oklahoma ahead, but they're just a small favorite playing at TCU. And then obviously the big daddy of them all, we've got Alabama and LSU. Really, it's kind of a wait and see on if Tua's going to be good to go. But I think that game's going to be fantastic either way. Obviously, if he plays and somehow LSU beats them, that sets up a great argument for the national championship. If Alabama goes down without Tua and then is able to come back, I think that we have great discussions there. So really good things to look out for college football this week. What about in the pros?
I think first, though, Clemson just sitting back at number 5, defending champs, going, we know that there's going to be a couple of teams that are going to beat up on each other, so they're fine in that spot right now. But it's kind of strange to see them looking in.
Yeah, and obviously
at number
Ohio
5
State
right
takes
now.
that number one ranking, and they've got Maryland this week and Rutgers next week. So two teams that they should be able to walk over and set themselves up looking good.
Yeah, the pros it's fun. I mean, Miami got their first win last week. I think you look at this week, and there's several marquee games. First one is Thursday night, Raiders-Chargers. Look at how well especially the Raiders have played of late. Chargers are starting to get back into it a little bit. Chargers are a small road favorite. I mean, every game's a road game for them, so it wouldn't surprise me to see that come back a little bit. I think when you look at the Sunday games, though, in the afternoon, you've got Carolina and Green Bay, which I think is a really good game. Green Bay, I think 6-2 against the number so far this year, one of the top teams in the league against the number. 4-1 at home against the Carolina team that has only one loss since Kyle Allen took over at quarterback. The Sunday night game, Minnesota and Dallas. Huge game for both those two teams. Dallas gets to win against the Giants. Minnesota, the entire NFC North lost last week, so kind of a big game for Minnesota. But the real game, I think the game that just is huge, is Monday night. You've got Seattle at San Francisco. One team's 7-2, one team's 8-0. San Francisco is the only unbeaten. They're playing Seattle. You've got the whole Richard Sherman against Seattle going on. That's a great matchup, too. So I think there's some real marquee matchups in pro football this week, especially bookended by the Raiders-Chargers and Seahawks-49ers on Monday night.
I'll add one game in there I think that's very, very important from a playoff picture is Rams at Steelers. Basically an elimination game for the Steelers the way you're looking at it. The Rams, the NFC hunt is, depending on what goes on Monday.
I mean, they're behind San Francisco and Seattle, although I really think Seattle's lost at home to Baltimore. They should have lost to the Rams. They lost to the Saints. Have had some really tough games. Almost lost to Tampa and Cincinnati. I still think the Rams are a better team than Seattle, but right now Seattle's second in that division, and if they win that game, they really throw the AFC or the NFC West up for grabs.
Yeah, and I think it's a huge game. Obviously, the Steelers were a Vinatieri kick away from maybe essentially sealing their season, but this team's trying to fight back. So I think that makes this even more important.
And after that, college football. I mean, how exciting is it for us? College basketball, excuse me. How exciting is it for us that hoops are here? If you like college hoops, I mean, it was like a candy store yesterday. Over 100 games. They tipped off at 9 a.m. You had such a great classic at Madison Square Garden yesterday where you had the 4 top teams playing. I mean, it was exciting. You had Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, Michigan State. Great crowds in our book. Great handle. And the preseason number 1 team, Michigan State, got beat. Interesting tidbit, the preseason number 1 team for the last 10 years hasn't won the national championship. Thought maybe Michigan State could buck that trend or erase the curse this year. Did not get off on a good start.
Well, I think it's unfair to look at Michigan State as a complete
Langford,
team right now. Without Langford and just Cassius Winston leading that team, I think that they'll be a completely different team when we see Langford come back on the tail end of, or when 2020 hits, they'll be back up to full strength. But yeah, some great stuff on the board. I was really shocked that Duke, with the 3 freshmen along with Trey Jones, who played a great game, was able to knock off Kansas. That's one of my teams to look out for. I think obviously losing Zion Williamson and Barrett and Reddish, tough to replace those guys, but I think Duke, once they get those 3 freshmen up to speed, they're all projected to be first-round picks. Duke and Krzyzewski's going to be a dangerous team come March Madness. Another team I'm looking out for is Florida. Mike Davis in his second year down there. They get their graduate transfer and Kerry Blackshear Jr., who played great last night. Scotty Morris down in Florida. They play great defense. Great defense travels well no matter where you go with it, so I think Florida is a team to look out for. as we again go along the season. They do have a brutal schedule,
do.
but I do think that they can take over Kentucky as an SEC leader. And the other team that I have highlighted is Memphis. I think that Memphis and Penny Hardaway,
right.
what they've got going on, that team is absolutely huge. Go look at their roster. Just seems like everybody on the roster is over 6'8". They do have 7'1" James Wiseman, who's likely to be the NBA's #1 pick, along with Precious Achiuwa, another giant kid. So Memphis is going to run through that American Athletic Conference, and I know you've got some teams that you're looking out for this year as well.
I really like Maryland too. Unfortunately, they play in the same conference as Michigan State, but they have 7 of their top 8 players back. Between Cohen, Smith, and Wiggins, they bring a lot to the table. They've had a great recruiting class. If they can play a little bit better defensively, I know they're like 8-9 right now as preseason ranking. I think they're a top 5 team in the country. I think you look at Gonzaga as well. They lost their 4 top players, but Mark Few can retool on the fly. He's got 3 of ESPN's top 100 recruits coming in. I think they're really good, plus an easy type schedule. My kind of sleeper team a little bit is Arizona. I think the last 2 years, the Pac-12 has put 3 teams into the big dance. This year, I think they can put as many as 6. He's got 2 incoming freshmen, Nico Mannion and Green, coming in. Nico Mannion's a fun player to watch. I think Arizona, kind of outside of the top 20 right now, is kind of, for me, more of a top 10, top 15 team. So it's going to be fun. The season's going to be great. It tipped off yesterday with 100 games. That's all the more reason to get signed up for the STN mobile app, because you've got pro football, you've got pro basketball, college football, college basketball, the Golden Knights. We love it when you guys come out, but if you can't get here, STN Mobile really does bring all these sports to the palm of your hand.
It's really the busiest time of the year when you think about the sports that we have going on. With the fact that college football, the MAC starts to play these Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays games, there's not a day that there's nothing going on. And we could talk college basketball forever. I almost want to just sit here and pick your brain even more. When you talk Mountain West college basketball, I like Utah State. From a sleeper standpoint.
UNLV played well last night, though. I mean, they got out to that early lead and played well. I think the big thing for UNLV is last year they were picked preseason number 6 in the Mountain West. This year, 7. We know they're going to play an up-tempo style. They're going to look to really run up and down the court. The big question is, does that translate to wins? I think it's going to take a year or two for TJ to get his entire, his type player here. They don't have the same three-point shooters as he had at South Dakota State, but that up-tempo, I think the fans will like. So first 2 games now, they have ran it up a little bit.
I know we're 5 months away, but who would be your pick to win the national championship right now in college football or college basketball?
College basketball? I'm going to, I talked about him earlier. I'm going to say Maryland. I really like the fact that you can return 7 of 8 guys and you can bring in a good recruiting class. I liked Michigan State, but without Langford most of the year, that tough early season schedule, they're going to play Duke, Kansas, Seton Hall. That is really tough, and they got the loss to Kentucky. I'm going to go with Maryland a little bit. I think Maryland's got a real shot. Maryland, Texas Tech, Michigan State, and Louisville were my final 4.
It's so funny that you mentioned last is Louisville, because that's who I'll throw out there. Obviously, I really like Florida, really high on Florida, but I think Louisville has a chance. Chris Mack in his second season there, they've got 8 returning starters. They get a transfer from St. Joe's. They've got a team that's set to run. I think that they kind of run the ACC, and we'll see what happens as we go along.
I think we skip the parlay cards and just keep talking about college hoops for the rest of the afternoon.
But you going back to Utah State, though, I think this is a team. Again, they did not particularly look good yesterday. They were out without Neemias Queta. But I literally think that they have the 2 best players in the whole Mountain West Conference on the same team in Sam Merrill and Queta.
Well, I love that you can remember Neemias and Precious. I mean, you're doing great.
He's a 7-footer. He's going to dominate.
He did practice back in the office like for a half an hour.
I'm excited
to make sure he got all these guys
actually
right.
Go over and watch the game and watch Utah State play when you get to see players like this. And when you get to see guys that are going to play at the next level, you got to take those type of opportunities to watch those players.
Yep. So, guys, good luck this week. Again, love it when you guys come in. We had a packed house. Don't forget, you race guys. Packed house for Breeders' Cup weekend last week. $10,000 and $20,000 twin Qs, which was great. Come on in, have some fun. $1 dogs, $1 beers, $4 shots. If you can't be at a game live, there's no better place to be than one of our racing sports books.